Hey everyone, today I'd like to try to give you a glimpse of some of the stories that I've tried to write in the past, these unfinished stories as per my name, and try and describe to you the best that I can the worlds that I've come up with and that I've tried to create, and try to give you a snapshot of that. I'll try to put some timestamps in the description if you want to jump around to those. One thing for a lot of the stories that I've tried to create in the past is a lot of them have come from dreams I've had. And one of the stories I've mentioned before, the Peter and the Wolf story, that actually came from a dream I had. Obviously it's a pretty weird dream, but sometimes I get some pretty cool dreams. I had a dream where I thought I was a Power Ranger fighting some monsters in front of Walmart. And I think there was even a section where there was a Megazord where I transformed into a Megazord and fought a giant monster. But on the other side of some of the dreams that I've had, there was also a nightmare that I had. I only had it once, but it was something I continued to think of. If any of you remember the BBC Narnia miniseries back in the 80s, I think it was the 80s, but the wolf from that was just horrific. Like, I looked up a picture from it and it is still super scary. And I had a nightmare about that when I was a little kid too. So I was taking a class in college for screenplay writing, and the assignment was to write a screenplay based on a dream you had. And so luckily enough, I had a dream that I thought was interesting enough to use as a story. I think it is interesting, but at the same time I think it's pretty strange too. So I don't have the screenplay, but I'll describe the dream / story as best I can. Up in the air, up in the sky, way high up, you break through the clouds, you see almost a desolate land. Rocky, craggy, nothing there. But there's this humongous crater just right in the center of this landscape. And so you come down to the crater, and inside the crater it's a massive crater, huge. But there's this lush jungle, forest inside this huge crater. Think of like the top of the crater to the bottom, like a mile high, something like that. It's a massive, massive crater. And inside the crater, there's actually 6 humans living there, along with giant orangutans that communicate telepathically. I know, very different, almost bizarre. Maybe you can just say bizarre. There's 6 humans there. They've been living in this crater for 2 years. I can't exactly remember if I wanted the humans to have lost their memory, or before the 2 years they didn't know how they got there, or a huge apocalyptic event happened and they were there, they just haven't been able to get out. I want to say I think they lost their memory, they didn't know how they were there. Super cliche, right? So when I presented to the class at the time, a lot of people seemed to have liked it. Obviously I had written a lot more in depth and detail about it, trying to create some characters as well. A little romance. I don't really write romance really well. I've never really tried though, but I don't think I'd write it very well. But that's just a different subject. I don't think I'll ever come back to this, but it's something to talk about, a story that I didn't finish. So with this other story, I think I had a dream about it. I can't exactly remember. Most of these seem to be story premisi. So in the dream, there's this painting of an attic room. You really only see a window. You don't really see most of the room. But if you look out the window of this attic room, you'll see that it overlooks a grassy hill. But if you look past that grassy hill, you'll see the sea. But it's the perspective, point of view, perspective I think, is a lot lower to the ground, a lot farther away. So at least what I was seeing in this dream is that this attic, this house, is on top of this mountain actually, and the sea is right below the mountain, like directly below it. That was the dream. I don't really know where I got this next idea from, Well, I think I got this next idea from because I like Stargate. And so it's kind of a Stargate premise. Stargate SG-1 is the Stargate I really like. I like Atlantis fine as well. I didn't really like that universe. There's this painting, but this painting is magical and it actually leads to the other world you see in the painting. So you have a professor, doctor, guy, and he brings along maybe 2 lab assistants and a mercenary to go through and explore this other world. Maybe it's a dimension. Dimension seems a little better than maybe Dimension's a little less cliche. It's still pretty kind of cliche, but less cliche than magic. But the professor goes in with this team, and they come into this attic. And as they're looking around the attic, like only 2 minutes pass and a biplane flies overhead, and they look out and they see a war going on in front of this house that they've in this world that they've just dropped into. So the only other thing that I've really kind of smoothed out with this idea is that the technology is World War I era technology, and that's about everything I've really kind of come up with. I think it's a cool premise and I'd really like to write it. I just don't know where to go with it because I've tried to write, like I said before, I've sat down once and tried to write it, but nothing ever really came from it, and I didn't enjoy what I was coming up with. One direction that I see myself tending to go with some of these stories is I want to write a very strong protagonist, very powerful protagonist that is able to manage any situation, or they have all the right tools and all the right gear with them, and they can overcome any sort of obstacle that comes in their way. And that's not a very entertaining character, or the way I'm writing it's not a very entertaining way. I just want this character to be able to overcome any obstacle. As I look at other stories and media, and I see that characters, they always have really big flaws, or they don't have what they need to overcome their trials. And I guess this goes into the hero's journey, if you're familiar with that. The hero doesn't start out with what they need, they have to take the journey to find what they need. And so that's something I guess I just need to follow a little better, or I'm not really sure. And I don't think creating this character that is really powerful and has all the right gear would be very entertaining for people to read. Not only when I look at this is it not very entertaining, but to an audience I don't think it would be very entertaining either. And so I've tried to be as introspective, or maybe objectively introspective. And that's one of the reasons that I've tried to start this channel, is to get people's feedback on the types of stories that I do write, and to tell me what they like, what they don't like. A story I've recently read, a trilogy of books, is the Leviathan series by Scott Westerfeld. It's a World War I alternate history fiction, steampunk-esque, and I really liked it a lot. I think the guy, Mr. Westerfeld, did a great job in writing these, and great characters as well. So I highly recommend checking out this series. It's really cool. I liked it a lot, and I think there are some ideas that maybe I could learn from in this series. I think there's a lot of elements that I could inspire myself from Mr. Westerfeld's work and pull from a little and inspire myself some. Already inspired a lot from his work. He did a really good job. It's not a newer series, it's an older series, but like I said, highly recommend that series. But this is something that I could gain a lot of inspiration from. I've kind of been off and on really, a steampunk kick, and that's where I found the Leviathan trilogy, by looking up different steampunk series. At least right now, I'm on that kick of trying to find some steampunk books to read. And so, if you have any good steampunk recommendations, books, maybe there's some TV series, maybe a movie, please let me know down in the comments. Love to get some other people's opinions and find some new series to put on my to read list on Goodreads, but I have a ton of books already on that list as well. A couple of steampunk stuff is on there, and I need to maybe read some of those that's already on there. It's nothing like that at least in the steampunk books, there's nothing that I like really want to read right now, but except one book that I just said. Thanks for coming by. Would love if you would like the video and subscribe, but thank you so much for stopping by, and hope to see you in the next video.